Hey everybody, welcome to, this is funny. We have an unintended consequence here. I'm Gregg Stebben. I'm the co-host of our new show here at BeamZ. When I message, it's going to have Ilya's name on it. I don't know why that is. I'm going to write, this is Gregg. And you'll meet Ilya in a minute. Ilya, I'm going to invite you on now. Hold on one sec. So we'll be really confused. Whoop, we lost Ilya. Hold on, he'll be back. Hold on. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, well, I'm going to chat for a minute here. There he is. Hold on one sec. Ilya, I'm going to invite you on the screen right now. Hold on one sec. I think this is you. Well, we'll find out in a minute. Ilya, you should have gotten an invitation to join us. I'm going to try one more time in case that didn't work. Hang on here. So my name is Gregg Stebben. It says on the screen when I chat Ilya's name. I don't know why that is. We'll try to figure that out. We'll wait a couple of minutes here. I've just invited Ilya to join us. We'll wait a couple of minutes for people to come in. I can see a lot of people are joining us. There he is. Hey, Ilya, welcome.
Hi. It took me some time to figure out how to handle the controls, but yes, I managed.
Well, no worries. You know, we're all. It's a whole new world here. So, where are you? Right. Your wall looks purple behind you. Is it purple, or is that just the lighting?
No, it is purple. We have Ukrainian flag here, so gotcha. I'm in Kyiv. Yeah. Okay,
gotcha. Well, we're going to talk about that. Let's wait a couple of minutes here and let people come on in. I'm going to make a confession here before we actually start the show, and that is that I've spent the last hour rehearsing how to say your last name.
And That's right? A challenge. That's a challenge.
It's not a challenge in Russia, but it's a little bit of a challenge here in the United States. But I think it's Ponomarev. Is that right?
Almost.
Almost. Ponomarev.
That's perfect. That's
okay.
Perfect.
Ponomarev. Okay. The middle syllable's been tripping me up. So anyway, you're welcome to correct me at any time. I want you to know I'm doing my best.
Well, let it be the only thing you need to be corrected in, you know.
Well, then I'm having a pretty good day, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So let's give people another minute or two to come in. You said you're in Kyiv. Are you able to be at home, or are you able to say where you are? Or what's kind of your situation there?
My situation is that I originally joined what is called territorial defense. That's like militia, people's militia. It's armed and it's part of the military force of official Ukraine military force, and they were formed to defend Ukrainian cities. So my job was to guard the center of Kyiv. But then we decided that it would be more productive, that I would not be just with a machine gun on the street, but to do something for a more massive impact, more mass destruction, so to say. And we created a media channel which is called Утро февраля, or February morning in English. And that's a conglomerate of different media resources that is targeted to Russians. And we're the only Russian language media resource which broadcasts from Kyiv, from the middle of things, and which talks to Russians in Russia. And right now we're very proud that three-fourths of our audience, they are in Russia. They are not immigrants, you know, they are staying there. So they have a word of truth about what's going on in Ukraine.
Well, so I was watching in the last hour. So, and I'm going to ask you if you can put the URL for YouTube in your chat box there. I closed the window, and so it would be a challenge for me to do it. But if you can do it, we'll send people there. Even though we probably don't have a lot of Russian speakers, they'll be interested to see what you're doing there. Now that people are wandering in, let me give you a proper introduction. So I'm Gregg Stebben. When I chat, it's going to say I'm Ilya. I don't know why, because I'm Gregg. I'm putting it in the chat now. You'll see Ilya says my name is Gregg. I don't know what happens when you chat, Ilya, but we'll work that out.
I testify you're Gregg.
Yeah, that's right. His name is Gregg. The guy with the Russian accent is Gregg, and I'm anyway. This is obviously a new show for us here at BeamZ. We're very excited about it. We think it's a very important show. We're really thrilled that Ilya is joining us to do this. And I want to give him a proper introduction, which I hope will include the proper pronunciation of your last name. But you'll correct me if I need a little help there. So the name of the show, I'm guessing most people, whoops, I lost Ilya. That's not what we wanted to have happen. I'm going to that's interesting. I don't know why we lost you, Ilya. I'm going to send you another invite there, or maybe you're going to come back after you chat. I don't know what happened there. Hold on here. Let's see if we can get you back, Ilya, because it's going to be way more interesting with you here than me just talking for the next 30 minutes. But while we're trying to get him back, there he is.
Well, I decided to drop you the URL, and I logged in on the computer, and immediately.
Oh, there you go. Okay, don't use the chat anymore. No more chat for Ilya. I will chat for Ilya since my name on the screen is Ilya. So the name of the show, as you all saw, is, let's see if I can get this right, Ponomarev versus Putin, risking his life to defy Putin for over 10 years. And here's really the premise of the show. Here in the West, we know who Vladimir Putin is, or we think we know who he is, but we're about, with Ilya's help, to get to know Vladimir Putin a lot better through Ilya's eyes, because Ilya is a former member of the Russian State Duma, or the parliament. He now lives in Ukraine. He lives in Kyiv. As you've heard, he joined the Ukrainian military. I want you to know, Ilya, when I first heard President Zelensky announce that website for foreigners to go and fight with Ukraine, I went there too. And what because I'm in Poland now, but I was ready to go to Ukraine. But what I realized is they were really looking for people with military experience. But it's funny that you say you're now doing communications, because I thought there might be an opportunity for someone like me to go and do what you're doing. But it makes more sense for you to be doing it in Russian than for me to be doing it in English. Anyway, Ilya is now fighting on behalf of Ukraine. And if you go watch an interview he did with CNN, you'll realize that he said back in 2014, and this is really important, he said, first of all, he was the only member of the State Duma to vote against the annexation of Crimea. The only one. That's who we're talking with here. That's frankly why we're talking to you. You know, you have a very important place in history. But you also told, and I'm going to mispronounce another name here. You also told Christina Amanpour, I think she's the lead foreign correspondent for CNN. You told her in 2014 that the annexation of Crimea was going to lead to a war with Ukraine. So you were right. And you also told her, if that happens, you're going to fight or support. I'm not quite sure how you said it, but you said you were going to fight or support Ukraine. And we now have the war, and that's exactly what you're doing. So I really wanted to set it up with that, because that's a really important,
So you mean I'm a bad politician, right? I'm telling the truth. Yes.
So you're an atypical politician. But that really sets the stage for what we're doing here. So one of the questions I want to ask you is, why, when you were a member of the State Duma, why was it that you were a dissident? What was it that you wanted for Russia that was so in opposition to the vision of Vladimir Putin?
Firstly, I hate the word dissident. Because,
okay, I'll never say it again.
Well, yeah, it has the smell that you are the lone fighter, and that you are very inefficient. That it's a position of a high morale, of a respect, but that you are very lousy as a politician, because at the end of the day, the position of the politician is to achieve something.
Yes.
And indeed, I am for quite a long time in politics, because I'm originally an entrepreneur, and I was doing business, technology business, and I was doing technology things, but in oil and gas industry. Then back in the technology as an investor, the venture capital fund, which I was running. But when Vladimir Putin came to power in year 2000, the first thing that he has done was demolishing the main independent Russian TV channel called NTV. And at that time, me being an entrepreneur and an investor, I started a technology business, which was an interactive TV. And my first investor was the guy whom Putin later sent to jail, which was Mikhail Khodorkovsky. And my second round investor to be was Ted Turner of CNN. And the whole thing with MTV happened literally when we were flying with Ted from Atlanta on his plane to Russia. And Ted said, I know Putin, I know those journalists from MTV, I will resolve this. And he volunteered to be the mediator between the journalists and Vladimir Putin. And obviously that was pointless. At the end of the day, he got screwed from all sides and said, I'm never coming back to Russia. My whole business was ruined by that time because everything was already planned. It was on the way. We had all the term sheets and stuff. And that time it was probably the final blow for me, when I said, okay, so I need to get into politics, I need to get this fixed. And that was my initial push to finally switch from business and go into politics. And then there were pretty miserable years, because when I started doing politics, and it was pretty much successful. I was working with the Communist Party because I am left-wing in my beliefs, and at that time we had a good chance to defeat United Russia, Putin's political party. But then Putin started another hypothetical campaign against oligarchs. And since I was friend with Mikhail Khodorkovsky and he was my investor, I was questioned as his spy within the political establishment. Khodorkovsky was sent to jail. I was not, because I was not part of UCAS by that time already, but life was pretty tough. And only by year 2007, I managed, because of my technology background and being in politics, I proposed a large program for Russian government to create technology parks, like in Bangalore in India. And it happened that Putin got excited, and one of his close allies said, okay, so he's in the opposition, but let him at least do something productive. And Medvedev was coming to power. And under Medvedev, I was one of his top ideologists, speaking of US ideologists of reset policies. I organized Medvedev's visit to Silicon Valley, his acquaintance with Steve Jobs, whom I knew quite well, and his first tweet with Jack Dorsey in San Francisco, and all this kind of stuff. And we were thinking that probably we managed to sway the development of the country in the positive direction with the evolutionary means. And with all the middle class and the innovation people, and they were coming in the spotlight, and a brain drain from Russia has stopped. And I think, yes, so here we are, we managed to do something constructive. But then Putin decided that he wants to come back to power in 2011. So they made the reverse swap. Putin once again became the president, and that time I became the leader of one of the leaders, obviously, as there was not a single leader of that protest, to campaign again him coming back to power against the fraudulent elections, because obviously this swap was not supported by popular vote, so it was all falsified. And inevitably, at the end of the day, to restore his popularity, that led to the annexation of Crimea in 2014. So it was all pretty logical at that time. My path was pretty much set.
I have hours of questions to ask you. We don't have hours today, but we have hours over time. So you just said, and it's interesting because I think you just confirmed what a lot of people think, and that is you basically just said the whole annexation of Crimea was about Putin solidifying his base of power within Russia.
Yes.
So talk to us about what's going on now. What is it the same thing? Is this invasion of Ukraine for the same basic purpose of him solidifying his position? Can you address that?
Frankly speaking, I don't know why he did invade Ukraine. Because it's a suicidal move. It violates all the logic. And this is the time I'm usually pretty good in political forecasts. But in this situation, I miserably failed. I was thinking that all American reports about military on the borders, etc., it was also a bluff. It was a game. It was to persuade Putin to do this and that. Well, for many different reasons, we can talk about it separately. But I didn't believe that he's going to invade. Because it was clear that there is no path to victory. But at the same time, there was a pretty clear path to annexation of Belarus. And it was kind of low-hanging fruit, so I was pretty certain that that's what he was going to do. I was thinking, and I still think, that Putin wants, by the end of this year, to restore USSR, neither socialist, Soviet nor socialist, but like union of sovereign Slavic republics.
Yes.
In Russian, it would be the same as SSSR, with the same acronym. And that obviously would very much work for his popularity back in Russia, which kind of declined before the beginning of the war once again. But at the same time, that's for him, it's a path for so-called transit of power. That's the most popular political term in Russia of recent days. And the transit of power means because he is right now officially at his second term.
Yes.
Because they said, okay, that everything that was before Medvedev doesn't count. Now they made amendments into the constitution that even those 2 terms does not count. But still, it's somehow, not so good, to go on the 3rd term, because people would understand that he's staying for the 3rd term, and that's kind of, not so good.
Yeah.
And by creating a new state, he could have been elevated to the new level, become the supreme leader of USSR, Secretary General, whatever you would call him, big boss. And that's kind of a new title, new position, new state, and then everything is nice.
Yeah, and the clock starts over again at 0, right? I mean, now I've served no time, and I can, serve until my death, basically.
Absolutely. That's the case. So why did he invade Ukraine? I think that the only thing why it happened, actually, the origin is in COVID, because he was sitting in his bunker, literally in his shelter, for 2 years, without going anywhere and without meeting anyone.
You mean because of COVID? Because of COVID?
Yeah. Because the guy is paranoid. He's literally paranoid. He's not a suicide man at all. He's not a jihadist. He's not sitting there with a belt which is ready to explode, made of nukes. No.
Exactly the opposite, right? I mean, he's doing everything to make sure that doesn't happen to him.
Absolutely. He's an extremely paranoid person. He was sitting tight, and to get to Putin physically, even his own members of the government, they need to be for 2 weeks on a quarantine. And obviously, nobody was doing it, so they were communicating via Zoom.
Yes.
or whatever the current system is called, of internal video communications. And he had basically just one or two guys, like his old friends, who were allowed to visit him personally without sitting on quarantine. And those two guys, they were extremely hawkish in their beliefs. They were feeding him with different history books of very dubious nature, at best. I would say that's a very alternative version of history. Plus, very specific guys that were coming, and I think that played the role. I think that he was convinced that the situation in Ukraine is unstable. The popular support for Vladimir Zelensky was falling. And in February, it actually started to match the popular support from one side for Petro Poroshenko, the former president, from the other side, Viktor Medvedchuk, the Putin's relative, who is the Ukrainian politician. And many people take him as a Russian spy, which is sitting in Ukraine. And probably he took this as a conclusion that right now it's the right moment just to push a little bit, and the Ukrainian statehood would fall apart. That Zelensky is a weak leader, he is an actor, he is not a military commander, that he would run away, and that America would persuade him to run away, actually, and that's America tried to do, by the way, in the first days by sending him a rescue mission.
I need ammunition, not a ride.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Zelensky declined. So that's I think was the source of the problem, because if he would have gone for Belarus, I think he would be unfortunately successful in that, and everybody would acknowledge the annexation.
Yeah. So I have a couple of things I want to ask you. One is about a very current event. And you mentioned, and I know from reading about you, you had a very deep background in the oil and gas and development business. What is your take on the natural gas shutdown on Poland and Bulgaria? And part of that question I'm asking is, it seems to me that even that seems like it could be a bit of a miscalculation, only because if you're going to shut someone's natural gas off, it's better to do it in November or December than at the beginning of spring.
Look, once again, I am looking all this in horror, because I'm thinking what I would need to do when we will come into power to restore our economy, because he's dug in the grave with his own hands for the Russian economy. With Poland and with Bulgaria, I take it as warning shots towards Austria and Germany, the real big consumers of Russian natural gas in Europe, because Poland already announced that the current contract, which is about to expire by the end of 2022, would not be extended. And they have all the means to do it, so they don't need Russian gas anymore. It's just that, long-term contract. So actually, Russia, by doing this, Gazprom is actually liberating Poland from the conditions.
The opposite of the intended effect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Paul said, okay, fine, we have enough reserves already in our storages. And yes, the winter, as you correctly said, is over. The heating season is over. It's already warm weather on the streets. It's right now like 20 degrees centigrade. So it's fine. We don't use.
I can tell you, being in Warsaw last weekend, all the restaurants put their tables outside for outdoor dining, and it wasn't because of COVID. It's because the weather is beautiful.
Absolutely. So the heating season is over. In Bulgaria, it's over for a long time already, because it's a southern country, and Bulgaria is a very small consumer for natural gas. And Gazprom already announced that they would stop supplies to Bulgaria like 2 months ago or something like that. So it's already is a done deal. So I think it's a warning shot, but it's a warning shot which would significantly accelerate Western transition away from Russian energy resources. And again, what I'm afraid is that when we'll be in power and we will need money to restore the economy and to keep it running, already the train is gone.
Right.
We will not be able to sell, even being a normal democratic whatever government.
Yes. Yes. All right. We have a question. Hold on a sec while I scroll back up. So Hervé asked, what do Russians in Russia know about what's happening in Ukraine? And there's nobody better to answer that question because you've created a network to inform them. It's called February Morning. It's called February Morning in Russian, but
Right.
and you shared the URL, and we'll share that again. But what do the Russian people know?
I would say Russian people know what they want to know because there is no problem of accessing the information. But the information, the truth, is so psychologically unpleasant that they are not willing to know it. They deny it even when they see it with their own eyes. And it's not a matter of accessing the information. We made not an experiment, but we made an interview with one lady, which lives right now, Russian lady, which lives in Silicon Valley. And she lives there for like 25 years.
Okay.
So she watches, I believe, Fox rather than CNN, based on her political beliefs. But nevertheless, she watches Western media, not Russian TV channels, not Putin propaganda. And when we are talking to her about Bucha, she says, "No, that's fake news." Why it's fake news? There's the pictures, the videos. We shot it ourselves. With relatives of hers, by the way, have sent her some pictures. It's fake news because we Russians are not like this. We Russians are not fascists. We Russians could not have done it. And because we know that we are not fascists and we could not have done it, that means it's fake news.
Yes.
So that's more or less the position of the majority of the society. And from one side, the situation is slightly better than the situation in Germany under Hitler. Because if we take the percentage of the population which is firmly against the war, even by the official numbers of the official sociological surveys, we will see that like 30 million Russians are against this war. And that's, by the way, it's more or less the same as people in Ukraine, right? So it's a large number of people which is against this war. But at the same time, out of the remaining 80%, most of people, they're just not willing to know what's going on. And before the war would knock on their personal doors, they would stay ignorant. Most likely, the situation would start to deteriorate when economic hardships would really hit them, and it takes time. It's normal for whatever military campaigns and for whatever country. If we remember Vietnam War for the United States, also, first year everybody was saying, great, but then it became the most unpopular war in U.S. history. We remember the same thing about the war in Iraq, and about many other campaigns. So more or less the same, I think, would happen to Russians. We should work. We should provide them the truth. The truth should be there. It should be easily reachable. They should trust us that we are like one of them, and we are delivering them the truth. At the end of the day, that would work, and the situation will change.
All right, I have a follow-up question for you about this, and I know you're not a psychologist because I read your LinkedIn page. I'm not a psychologist either, but it seemed, and on top of that, I think we in the West have some misconceptions about what it's like to live in a country like Russia. So forgive me, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. I have to wonder, and I guess that some of our other viewers here are wondering, are there people in Russia who kind of know what's happening in their head, but they're denying it because they're afraid to admit it? Are there elements of the culture and society and political climate that makes it dangerous to accept the truth?
Of course, that's also the case. But I think the most fundamental problem is not of them being afraid for security services or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
First thing is they're afraid of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you admit that what you see about Bucha is true, then what would you do? You know, it's a shame. It's disgust. You know that you are
Yes.
part of this, and
Yes.
you need to take machine gun yourself
Yes.
and go to fight against your own government. And
Yes.
most of people obviously is not ready for this.
Yes.
So you better pretend that you do not understand, that it's not your question. You know, I'm staying out of politics. You know, I close my eyes. You know, I care about my kids. You know, about my everyday life. I do what I have to do because I have no influence on the situation. It's safer, easier, and psychologically more comfortable to be like this.
Okay, two more questions before I let you go. One is, you're a Russian. You're not only a Russian, but you're a former member of the State Duma. You're a former member of the parliament, and you're fighting with Ukraine against your own country. Are there other Russians like you who are fighting with Ukraine, do you think, or do you know?
Firstly, what I want to stress very importantly is that I am fighting not against my country, I'm fighting against fascism. And fascism have no nationality, and Antifa movement has no nationality. And there are examples like this in the past. That's what Vladimir Putin wants us to feel us as traitors. But remember, for example, German Chancellor Willy Brandt. He was fighting alongside Norwegians against Nazi Germany during World War II. And then he became one of the most famous and successful chancellors in German history, who has done a lot to end the results of this war and to end this guilt which Germans were feeling, and apologizing, by the way, to Poles and to Jews in Poland.
Yes.
During his that famous visit, during which he stand on his knees, and that's a very good example for myself. You know, this type of behavior. But answering about others, yes, there are a lot of Russians here. Not so many as I would prefer to see, mainly because of bureaucratical problems on the Ukrainian side, because obviously is a problem. Ukraine is afraid of accepting Russian volunteers because you can never tell who is FSB agent among them, and you can filter them out. But there are thousands. It's even one military regiment in Ukrainian military, which is called Legion of Free Russia, which is fighting alongside Ukrainians, and I think there would be more.
Well, first, I want to thank you for explaining the difference between fighting your country and fighting fascism, because that's that is very helpful for me, and I'm sure everybody else, to really understand that as a distinction. Again, when you live in the West, we've lived in a world that is very different, and these are, in a sense, foreign things for us. The last thing I want to ask you, Ilya, and before I do, I'm going to point something out to everybody who's joined us here. There's a button near the upper right-hand corner of your screen. EMS just figured it out. The button either has a $sign on it. It doesn't matter what country you're in. You can pay in other denominations. It either has a $sign or it says pay host. Neither Ilya nor I are being paid to be here, so you're not paying the host. What we're doing is we're raising money. And Ilya, my understanding is you have an organization or a group of people that you want the money to go to. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, thank you very much for this. We have a special foundation, which we call Bravery, Smelost in Russian. And that's a foundation where we're raising money to help those Russians who stopped fighting the war. That's for Russian military who resigned. That's for Russian government people who resigned. That's for Russian propaganda guys who resigned. And almost all of them after that, they're facing criminal prosecution or any other forms of oppression. I am currently following several dozen cases where we provide the legal assistance. I have smuggled also several dozen people outside Russia which were facing very long prison terms, because currently for actions like this, it's 10 plus years in Russia as a prison term. And that's what I'm using money for. So far we raised not that much. We raised slightly more than 50,000 US, but they were put at good work. And if you guys can help us, I will greatly appreciate that.
Well, you can see people, it says paid for the show. If you can, please do hit that button. I'm so glad we're doing this for this organization. I'm going to ask you as a last thing to type the URL for the organization into the chat box. I realize we may lose you when you do, because that's what happened before. If we lose you, I'm just going to end the show. And I want everybody to know, Ilya and I are going to be here every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. And this conversation and conversations with others are going to continue. We're going to raise money for his organization every time we're here. But I want you to have the URL. So if you want to share it with friends and family, they can't make it to the show. We'd love to have them make it to the show, but if they can't get here, they can still make a donation and support these people that Ilya was just talking about. So Ilya, if you would put the URL in the chat box, and thank you so much for being here. And if you have some final words, please share them.
Yeah, I just want to say that the URL that I shared in the first place was the URL for the YouTube channel, which is a TV channel, and we have a lot of very high quality guests coming to us. There's our former prime ministers of Ukraine and several other countries who are coming, and the members of parliament, and so like we have very capable and competent people who are talking about the conflict and about what's going on. So those of you who understand Russian, because obviously it's in Russian because it's for Russians, you are more than welcome. But besides that, we have a Telegram channel which has the same name, and which is probably the most comprehensive right now information news line about what's happening in Ukraine. Like the news is coming like literally every 5 minutes, and probably that's the most comprehensive source of information. So now I will type in the link to that
Good.
thing, so because then it's easier for English speakers, because it's easier to get it translated into English, and Telegram has such a capability to do the translation.
Yes, absolutely. Ilya, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to talking to you again next week. Thanks for being here. Thank you everybody for joining us. I'm going to keep this window open after I end the show, because if you want to, people can continue to pay and make donations to Ilya's organization. We'll leave it open for 5 or 10 minutes for that to happen. Ilya, thank you again. And you can actually go off camera when you're ready. There's a button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. I think it says end. Is that what it says? It says end. But thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. And I hope that would become regular, and that we see you all guys next week. And Greg, thank you very much for having this. And I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, one last time, I'm going to point out the button in the upper right-hand corner. It either has a $sign on it. Thank you for all the hearts. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for your great comments and questions. You can see that this is going to be a fascinating, ongoing conversation. So you'll want to be here every week, Thursday at 11 a.m. And if you can help, again, the button in the upper right-hand corner, it either has a $sign or it says pay host. And again, I just want to emphasize, I'm not being paid to do the show. I'm not being paid to be in Poland, in Warsaw. I'm here for the same reason you are. I am as committed as you are, and as committed as Ilya is in doing everything I can. And I know you feel the same way. And I know Ilya feels the same way, doing everything all of us can to make this war end. So hit the button if you can. You've got the URL from Ilya there. We'll send out an email tonight just with these URLs in it as well, so that you have them also in your email. Thank you for being here, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Thursday. And again, Ilya, if you're still here, thank you so much for being here. And I'm gonna end my camera, but leave this open if you want to pay. And I think you can even continue to chat after I'm gone. But feels like a good time to wrap this up. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you next Thursday.